Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button, and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 58 of the virtual stone carving apprenticeship. Okay, we've reached a new point in this whole process. I'm getting ready to start just working, and I'm not gonna. I want to be very inclusive about what I include in this video series, but I don't want to be I don't want to be redundant more than anything. I want to try to not repeat content more than is necessary. And so what I'm going to do going forward for at least some of this that's coming up right now, because I got to work on this base that we've been breaking out, worked on that, and I got to start putting rubber on the full model, the 2/3 scale corrected full length model, and develop that. And I'm going to try to do these simultaneously, and in order to have something to do while the silicone's drying, and I'll work on stone, and then I'll put more silicone on, and we'll go back and forth to get that going. The patron did say she was going to send some pictures. I'd offered to do somewhat of a family likeness in the angel in the portrait face. And I'd offered that, wow, long time ago, way back, that's been the better part of a year. And she had it never seemed to be a priority. Well, I talked to her a few days ago when the stone came in, just after the stone came in, and she said that they were going to send some pictures. She hadn't seen any of the one-to-one portrait face or anything, so that's why I wasn't real concerned about, I wasn't real focused on it, because I wanted to get some done and work on it. But I had in the back of my mind, I'll do all this work, and then she'll say, hey, could we do it to look like this? And I start all over. So I'm waiting on those pictures now. She said her daughter's going to send them. And that's the way business works. This is a commission project. This isn't just art where I can create it and there's no right or wrong. There are some parameters, even if she's going to give me full liberty. I told her I'd do it, I offered it, and so she's finally taking me up on the offer. But as we go forward, I'm going to try to show you different things and not just more of the same. What I've got to do until I start cutting stone on this base, all these panels on the top, that's squaring a block of granite. That's cutting a panel. That's why I showed you these things. How to listen to a crack, whether it's listening to a crack that's already there that you want to eliminate, or you want to create a crack when you're hand setting and breaking something off and you're trying to control it. I've already talked about that. And I talked about those things for a reason, because those are critical to moving forward on this project. And so what I'm going to do now is the same thing. I've got a lot of content that's already up, and y'all need to study it, pay attention. That's why it's online already. And this goes into my other content before I started the formal apprenticeship series, because I've got lots of stuff in there in the traditional stone carving, whatever, the 2 or 3 different playlists I've got that aren't just project videos. I've got, how I do the silicon molds. I've got waste molds. I've got, there's a series on waste molds. We're doing line fold. There's a series on silicon molds with the St. Francis that I cast. It was really big. And I was trying to be very, very complete on that, because I hadn't reached the point of really putting together the concept of the virtual apprenticeship yet. So that information is all there. The Dormered Capital project that I have, I think there's 2 or 3 videos on it that's in Colorado Yule, and that shows a very methodical approach to doing finishing work. And that methodical approach is exactly how I'm going to do this base. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to do one thing all the way around the stone. I'm going to do this 5 3/4 to 6 inch margin panel all the way around the top of the stone first. And that's so that I can balance it out and make sure everything's even, because it rarely ends well if you take one side, like the side we've been working on, and finish it to completion, and then you try to match it with 3 more sides, because invariably something will shift or break a little crooked or whatever. You want to get everything really well settled before you move to the next phase, so that everything is going in the same direction at the same time, and not that you're finishing one task to completion and then you have to go back. This is something I learned doing culinary work, is that when you're doing redundant work or you're repeating a task where you have to do the same thing multiple times, you're better off to do the exact same thing than you are to take an entire task or process and finish each unit to completion before you start the next one. You're better off to, you know, to fabricate 20 chickens at once and to fabricate one chicken and get everything ready, then fabricate the next chicken. You break them all down the same way because you have muscle memory where you're going through and you're doing the same exact thing and your knife never misses. You just go. And you'll end up faster at the end of the day, and that makes a better profit margin. And it usually makes for better work as well because you're far more consistent. So we'll cut this margin around the top, turn the stone 2 or 3 times. I got a lot of work turning the stone and doing all that. And then we'll start breaking it. We're fortunate on this broken side, this long side that we were working on yesterday, to have a couple places where the stone's really tall. And so that's going to help me practice breaking it to see how deep I can get. With an 8-inch stone, with an 8-inch die, it's pretty easy to take, you know, like a 6-pound hammer and a handset and drive all the way through it. When you start getting 10 to 12 inches, that's a lot of stone to push in one swing. But you also don't want to take and use a bull set, which is basically, it looks like a large handset, except it's mounted on a handle. It looks like kind of like an axe or a wood splitter, and then you strike that with a big hammer, with an 8-pound or a 12-pound hammer. And the risk with that is you can put so much energy into it that it breaks way more than you want it to. And so you've got to find that balance to where it really works. So I'll break in. I don't know how much more I'll put on this video because there's a couple things I want to bring up, but I don't know how long I'm going to make this video because I don't really know that I've got a lot of new content to add. The silicone rubber for the mold, same stuff, been there, done that. Go back to the old videos and watch them. That's why I did them and why I did just that subject on a number of videos. Same thing with doing a panel. This is panel work, and many people think this is not artistic at all, but it is. It's really cool to produce those flat, accurate panels exactly where you want it because they're going to make your sculpture work stand out because nobody's going to look and see that your flat, square panel is all crooked and wonky and the edges are broken and it looks awful. You want that type of surface, that type of element in the composition to simply disappear and take a role in the background. You don't want it to glare and stand out and people look at your stone and then say, wow, that base looks all cockeyed and crooked, looks like the stone's going to fall over. You want it to look stoic and plain and just disappear. And by doing that, it enhances the overall composition. And that's something a lot of people miss. They want to do the pretty part. They want to do the pretty face, the pretty hands, and they put that on the stone first. No, it's the last thing you do. You wait till the end to make sure everything balances out. You get all this boring stuff done first. That may seem boring, but it's really important. And so study the old videos. And I'll break in and have some content, and we'll keep adding videos as we go along. I don't want to leave things out, but there's no reason for me to shoot another 10 videos of me squaring up panels. I already did that. That squaring a granite block, you know, I've on one of the, I think the last squaring a granite block video in the apprenticeship series, I've linked on 2 other videos, one from Japan and one from France, of doing softer stone completely by hand, where they use different tools and different approaches without plumb blocks. They used the Japanese video, it was more hand point, and they chipped it off with like a hand axe. The other, the French video, he actually uses a pair of what we consider to be winding sticks to put on the stone to check one edge that he'd already cut flat, that he just checked with his straight edge. Then he holds another one up to it to see if they twist or whatever to align his lines. Now, winding blocks, those are irrelevant. You know, that they claim plumb blocks are winding blocks. That's a mistake. That's not what they are. Winding sticks register on the entire surface. Winding plumb block only measures one specific area, so you've got a steady reference. And so if you put just a pair of plumb blocks on there and put your straight edge on to check for wind, you know, it can't tell you anything about what's between those plumb blocks, and it's a foolhardy way to do it. So, but I want to move the camera over here just for a minute. As we're getting started, it's really easy. Once, you know, in studio, it's easy to see how big these stones are. It's really hard sometimes to maintain a perspective on what you're going to produce. And you've got to have that throughout the entire project in order to understand actual dimensions, actual vantage points and perspective, and what things really look like in the real world. So come here, I'm going to show you something over here at the triangle, and it's at the triangle so that it will stay there, because we're going to be showing the triangle, you know, as we start using compasses on the enlargement of the figure. This is going to be a point of reference where you probably will see it more than once, and I want you to come back to it and keep it in mind, because that's going to help me understand it as well. So check this out. I'm not real big. I'm about 5'10", 5'9.5", 5'10", you know, 5'10" with regular work boots on. And this overall installation, the base is 1'4" tall. When I say 1'4", the way we talk nomenclature in terms of measurement in the granite industry is there's a specific order. If we present 3 measurements for a die, the upright portion, the headstone, the tombstone that people call, or for the base, we present the numbers in a specific order as to the left to right dimension, followed by the front to back dimension, followed by the vertical dimension. Okay, this base is spec'd out to be 2'4". It came in, I'm thinking I'm going to be able to make it 6 foot long, so it would be 6 foot 0 inches, which is 6'0", by 2 foot 4 inches, which is 2'4", which would be 28 inches, by 1'4" tall, which would be 16 inches. And the problem we run into is a lot of people that aren't in the business that call, that ask about work, or that want to be involved with it, they'll see 1'6" and think that means 16 inches, but it doesn't. They'll get it mixed up. So we always talk about things that being like 1'4", 08", or 6'0", or whatever. That's our dimension, and the order they're listed tells us how the stone is going to be produced and sent to us. And die stock is different than base stock, because base stock has the grain vertical, which would call technically we call that head on end. So for some projects, for larger projects, for base stock, it's the grain is going up and down, and for a die stock, the grain is going from front to back. It's parallel to the ground, or you're facing it. And so the order of how you put your dimensions and whether it's die stock or base stock matters. But in terms of this project, the base is 1'4". It's 1'4" tall. The die, we should be able to get at least 6 foot out of it. And on this edge, if I turn it, I think I can pick up another couple of inches just because of the way it's broken. So it could be up to 6'2". Now, like I said, I'm about 5'10". I can reach 7 feet tall. That's 7 feet, just about exactly to the tip of my finger. So 1'4" plus 6'2" is 7 foot 6 inches tall. And 7 foot 6 inches tall is basically to the top of this board. So her head, if I reach up here, I'm going to be touching basically the tip of her chin. That's how big this stone is going to be when it's assembled. And if you carve this stone with the eyes looking in a certain direction on purpose, and you want her to be looking at people that are standing basically where the camera stand is, which is, you know, 8 feet away. Yeah, it's about 6.5, 7 feet away. Yeah, not quite 8 foot. So if you've got people standing in front of this and her eyes have to be looking down to you, that's where you've got to keep track of what you're carving, and not cut it. And this is why it's really critically important to be able to work with her laying down to a certain extent, to put her together and then stand her up and work on her height. Now I'm going to have to stand up on boxes and crates in order to carve the upper portions of this. But to realize that her head is going to be up here to where I'm basically touching her chin, it's going to be a big stone. She's going to be really impressive. And one of the problems that you run into with carving female figures in a heroic scale is to keep them looking soft and feminine. It's really easy when they get big, they can look very domineering. Large hands, when you put really big, like the big praying hands you see in some places where they have big 4 foot, 5 foot tall praying hands in cemetery, they're scary. When you stand in front of them, there's a visceral thing, because you imagine with somebody with hands that big, they'll squish you like a bug. And so to keep her looking delicate and feminine, we got to make sure we maintain the perspective on, even though she's life size, she's going to be way up above us looking down at us. And so it'll be important to maintain, to tune her so that she looks right in that position. I want to show you a couple things on this stone just to fill this video up, and then we'll break it off. Let's go back over to the die for the base for just a second. This is where I mentioned, see, we've still got about an inch to clear off, but that's going to leave me probably 4 inches in the center of this. This is going to be the hard part. It's going to be putting just enough of a lip here to break this and clear that off so that there's no tool marks. That's going to be, if I hadn't cut that far deep, we could have stopped right here and probably left this out and just gone down a little bit and chipped it in, and it would have been fine. But I got to go just a little bit deeper now because I did proof it to make sure. It's breaking pretty flat because we're on the rift. If you look at the way this front broke, it broke pretty well. If you look at the way, how much stone I've got humped up here in the middle, I've probably got 4 inches. And so I should be able to go in a couple of spots and go down, you know, an inch or so and lay right into that and see how far this, if it breaks to here or if it breaks beyond the center. If it breaks into this area, then I know for a fact that I can put a hammer on the joint and that same kind of depth and get a really good hit and be able to clean this right off and not have to go very deep, because I'd like to be able to keep this as wide as I possibly can to have as much room on the top. If we cut this die, this base, say this is, okay, this is 2/4, and we're going to cut in, say we cut in 2 inches all the way around in order to get down to have enough stone to break. If we cut 2 inches, that's going to take this 2/4 to 2/0, and if I take, just say, 4 inches to do my scotia, to curve it up in, if I went 4 inches on each face, that removes 8 inches. That leaves this top at being, you know, 1/4. And my die is 1/4. I need it to be a little bit wider. So we're probably going to go in a little less. We'll make this steeper just to accentuate the height to make it look taller. And try to cut in just an inch to save at least an inch, if not 2 inches. I'm more concerned with how far we can reach. By breaking this hard, we'll be able to read the stone and know how much we can do, because the hard part is going to be breaking on this flat. If we get in here and we can go in an inch and drive it down to get to the center, then I should be able to break that off enough. But if we've got to go 2 inches to get the flat off on this side and then on the bottom, which is the other vertical side, then we surrender stone. So the way this is broken in, we would have been down to this dimension no matter. Probably should have ordered the stone a little bit wider, but I don't think we need to. So we'll make this work. We're going to cut the thickness of the die down to 1/3, I believe. I've got some crumble on this bottom edge, of the joint. And normally that would be a real problem. With this, it's not as big a deal because I'm going to do some work with it. I'm going to flip this stone over. This will be this face, this side will become the face of the stone in order to have the tall, 6+ foot tall. And then we're going to push the face of this back probably an inch. And that inch, then we can produce a little different detail. I'm going to modify the carving. When I do it, I'm going to let this drapery protrude over the edge, which is very common in older work, but it's an extra expense that most people don't afford. Because I'm going to strip everything off anyways, it's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and do that and make it even nicer. So, but now we're at a good point to wrap this video up. And I'll come back with more content and we'll keep going forward. Study the old videos and try to keep up. My name is Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio. I'm a granite sculptor with the virtual stone carving apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.